Symbiosis is a relationship in which two organisms of different species live in a close association, and at least one of the organisms benefits from this association. There are three types of symbiotic relationships. Can I have a look at your book? This one right here is an example of a symbiotic relationship. Any guesses?
I would say parasitism.
You're right. Can you explain it?
Parasitism is a symbiotic relationship where the parasite benefits at the expense of the host by using some of its energy, but it usually doesn't kill it. It's different from predation in that the parasite actually lives with the larger host organism.
Excellent. It sounds like you're ready for your interview with Dr. Lipitsky.
The giant liver fluke is a parasite that lives off the elk.
The flukes, they live right inside the liver, and they live in these large cavities called cysts.
Do the flukes kill the elk?
In certain cases, yes, flukes can kill the elk. It can predispose certain animals. Some animals may be more prone to predation than other animals. Say if you're being pursued by a wolf and you're infected, and say you only have 30% of a normal liver tissue left, being infected, that may give the wolf just a little bit of an edge that he will be able to catch you.
How do fluke transmit from one elk to another?
This is a parasite has a very complicated life cycle. In fact, most parasites have complicated life cycles. And in this particular life cycle, the adults are found in the liver. The parasites, they lay eggs in the liver. The eggs exit through the animal, through the feces, through the pellets. They land in vegetation or in water. If they land in water and under proper environmental conditions, the eggs hatch into little larvae called Parasitism. They have cilia. They swim in the water. And what they do is they penetrate snails. And there's several rounds of asexual reproduction of the parasite in the snail. And then another larva is released from the snail. And that's called a cercaria. It has a tail. So again, it swims through the water. It then attaches to vegetation. And then the elk comes along, and as it's browsing, as it's grazing in the sedge marshes, it accidentally eats this metacercaria, and then the whole life cycle starts up again. This liver doesn't look too bad, but there should be something in this large cyst over here. What I'll do is maybe cut it in half. Here we have a fluke.
How common are flukes in the elk population?
Over 90% of the elk in Banff are infected with the giant liver fluke. Oh, that's a nice one.
Okay, if parasitism is one form of symbiosis, what are the other two?
Well, what about butterflies and flowers? The butterflies feed on the flowers and at the same time pollinate them. Is that an example?
Yes, you described mutualism. That's where both organisms benefit. Take lichen, for example. It consists of two organisms from different species. The fungus provides protection and absorbs water, while the algae manufactures carbohydrates on which the fungus feeds. Humans also form mutualistic relationships with other species. For example, the mutualistic relationship with E. coli, a strain of bacteria that inhabits the intestines. The bacteria obtain nutrients from the digestive tract and keep the disease-causing bacteria out. The third symbiotic relationship is called Commensalism. Any ideas?
Is that where one organism benefits and the other's not affected?
Exactly. An example of commensalism is the relationship between epiphytes and trees. Epiphytes are plants that grow in trees without damaging them. The epiphytes benefit by living high in the air where they can get more sunlight and if they grew on the forest floor. Here's one for you. If the beneficiary of parasitism is called a parasite, what would we call the beneficiary of commensalism?
The commensal.
Right. Now, let's summarize what we have learned in this program.
In the short term, competition affects both species negatively, but when considered over a longer period of time, both species benefit. Competition ensures that those species having adaptations more suited for their survival will be selected. These traits will then be passed on to future generations.
Predation is positive for the predator and negative for the prey.
Parasitism is similar to predation. The parasite benefits while the host is harmed. But in predation, the predator kills the prey, while in parasitism, the parasite usually does not kill off the host.
And in mutualism, both species are positively affected.
Also, as you can see on the chart, commensalism positively affects the commensal, while the other organism is not affected.
See, you have a really nice chart there. Oh, and you have very interesting information on parasites.
No kidding. Do you know how many parasites can live in humans? Bacteria, protozoan, viruses.
Worms, sometimes 30 centimeters long and 4 centimeters thick.
They can even block intestines.
Do these parasites, are they found in North America as well?
Yes, there's actually quite a few parasites that can affect people in North America. Giardia, the one that causes beaver fever, it's a common one.
Yeah, but parasites don't affect North American populations to the extent that they affect populations in the developing countries.
Why would that be?
Probably due to poor living conditions. In some developed countries, the water supply is often contaminated by parasites due to a lack of effective waste management.
If the water supply was contaminated, then that would mean that the people would be reinfected several times in their lives.
So how would parasites affect the population as a whole?
If the infestation rate was very high, it could lead to high infant mortality.
But parasites usually don't kill off their hosts.
Well, if the parasite robbed its host of nutrients, the host would be more susceptible to other parasitic infections which could kill it.
So obviously the population wouldn't be able to grow to its full potential.
Good analysis. Parasites lead to illness, which will weaken the working population and decrease productivity. Decreased productivity is one of the factors that lead to poverty. And poverty encourages illness. As you said before, talk about vicious cycles.